All right. Peace and blessings. Peace and blessings. All praises to the Most High. And I'm going to do a little something different on this show. We're going to address an issue that affects the Black community. Sometimes we look at outside forces and we ignore the inside forces that oftentimes plague our communities. And this one right here, you're going to be listening to Wise Intelligent of Poor Righteous Teachers, talking about how the music industry, specifically hip hop, changed from a positive force on the Black community to a negative force on the Black community within a matter of years. Just check this out and I'll be back with a little more commentary. But this brother is speaking mad knowledge, and I think you'll be surprised to what you'll find out. Just watch.
You know, hip hop changing from positive to negative was not a consequence of history. It was not a circumstance of history. It was nothing that just happened on its own. It had nothing to do with the changing of the times. Had nothing to do with that. It had everything to do with the fact that there are people in this particular society who wants to see us exactly where we are. And we cannot let that point elude us. These are the facts. How do we know? 1967, Kerner Commission report on urban disorder. When Black people said, yo, we're tired of this system. You know what I mean? The system is oppressing us. So we rebelled against the system. We burned things. We said, yo, we had enough. He did his little report on what caused these riots. He said, what caused these riots? He said it was young children who started these riots. And what was motivating them was a high self-esteem and an enhanced racial pride. He said the majority of the rioters were high school dropouts, but they had a higher political orientation than their peers who did not drop out. And they saw the system as their enemy, so they attacked it in the right circumstance. So fast forward to 1992. Same thing. #1 record on the radio, we had Fight the Power. Fight the Power is on the radio. Rodney King is beaten before the world. The Black youth rebelled against the system. Again, they did it again. And why? What primed them? Positive hip hop. Primed them. Fight the Power, X-Clan, Brand Nubian. You had these groups out here who were pushing, who were politically orienting Black kids in the right direction, giving them the proper promptness that they needed so that they can respond properly to oppression. All right? In 1967, when the riots happened, he saw that the self-esteem and the racial pride was fueling this. So he said, how do I bring that down so that they will not riot? And what he did, he flooded the airways with Black exploitation movies. Charlie and the Return of Nigga. These were movies. Hip-hop didn't start calling people. We had Shaft. We had Coffee. Black girl turned prostitute to do whatever, you know what I mean? But these Black exploitation movies brought down the self-esteem and the racial pride so that the kids will not rebel against the system of oppression. 92, the racial pride was back in effect. We had Black kids going to Dr. Ben Yuckinen lectures. We were spending our money to go see Farrakhan speak as opposed to going to a strip club. This is where we were. The most coveted article of clothing was a historically Black college or university sweater. We were motivating children towards positive attitudes and lifestyles. And when Rodney King got the beating, heads responded properly. Fast forward to our day. Sean Bell is shot 50 times in the street in New York by police officers. #1 song on the radio, Like a Lollipop. Nobody do nothing. Nobody respond to nothing. Trust me. Just like the brother, I believe it was JT, the bigger figure, who said that the label executives came to him and said, yo, brother, we need you talking about guns and whores. You know what I mean? That's right. That happens. I've been in those meetings with management and had to ask me, is what you're saying really what you believe, so that we'll know how to market you properly? You know what I mean? This happens. Young Buck on his album, he has a song on his album that talks about police terrorism. The label said absolutely not. Jimmy Iovine said absolutely not. You cannot put that record on the album because it might create an atmosphere that might put police officers' lives in danger. Right. So they took the record off, but they let him keep the other 14 songs on the album that talked about killing black youth. So this is what we're dealing with. We're not dealing with a circumstance or consequence of history. You know what I mean? The environment that we're embedded in puts us in a situation where we feel we have to maneuver and play the game and water our message down. You know what I mean? But no, what happened was they intentionally shifted the paradigm to get us exactly where we are right now. Right now, we're feeding the prison industrial complex right now. Our kids are going to prison because they're promoting these records. They're promoting these records daily that send us to jail. You know what I mean? It's cool to go to jail. You know what I mean? They glorifying these things. And it's not the black youth. We're in a position where we get, like the brother said, the choice. You know, he said, yo, I chose the positive. So I didn't do it. But every youth is not going to take that route. I know I come from the projects. Grew up in the projects all my life. You know what I mean? And we're not turning down $500,000 to say we're not going to do it, because we won't turn down $200 to take a package of crack from one corner to the next. You know what I mean? We're living in a state of poverty and want of all things. So it's hard for us to make that. Our judgment is clouded. And they knew that the judgment would be even more clouded if they took groups like X-Clan off the radio. Mm-hmm. This is just what it is. And until we start to deal with the environment that's shaping the behavior, we'll never get to the next level. We have to confront that.
Hey, let's take rap music.
Let's take it.
Same people who own the labels own the prisons. So,
literally the same people?
Literally the same people who own the labels own private prisons. So, you know, it seems really kind of suspicious, if you want to say that word, that, you know, the records that come out are really geared to push people towards that prison industry.
Yeah.
Welcome back to your favorite podcast, Truth Talks. I am your host, Crazy Bone.
What's happening with it, man? I'm the bum, Keith G.
Now, a few of y'all might have already heard about this, about how the music industry has very close ties with the private prison system.
Yeah.
And the reason being is because the music business has invested millions of dollars in the private prison system.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you heard it correctly. Again, the music business and the entertainment business in general, meaning people who control the media, the music industry, and also
publication,
private prisons.
Yeah, magazines, all that.
Somebody sent me an article, like I think it was like 6 or 7 years ago.
Right.
And I read this article, bro, and I was like absolutely shocked, very shocked.
Talk to us.
In fact, I want to read this this article, but it's actually a letter that was written by somebody that was a decision maker at a major label.
Shot caller.
And he said, you know, he was invited to a very special meeting about the future of hip hop back in 1991.
Okay.
And the title of the letter is The Secret Meeting That Changed Rap Music and Destroyed a Generation.
Damn.
So it says, hello. After more than 20 years, I finally decided to tell the world what I witnessed in 1991, which I believe was one of the biggest turning points in popular music and ultimately American society. I have struggled for a long time weighing the pros and cons of making my story public, as I was reluctant to implicate the individuals who were present that day. So I've simply decided to leave out the names and all the details that may risk my personal well-being and that of those who were, like me, dragged into something they weren't ready for. Between the late 80s and early 90s, I was what you may call a decision maker with one of the more established companies in the music industry. I came to Europe in the early 80s and quickly established myself in the business. The industry was different back then, since technology and media weren't accessible to people like that, like they are today. The industry had more control over the public and had the means to influence them any way it wanted.
Right.
This may explain why in early 1991, I was invited to attend a closed-door meeting with a small group of business insiders to discuss rap music's new direction. Rap music's new direction.
Yeah.
Little did I know we would be asked to participate in one of the most unethical and destructive business practices ever seen.
Crazy.
So this was the meeting. The meeting was held at a private residence on the outskirts of Los Angeles. I remember about 25 to 30 people were being there.
Right.
Most of them familiar faces. Speaking of those I knew, we joked about the theme of the meeting, as many of us did not care for rap and failed to see the purpose of being invited to a private meeting to discuss the future of hip hop.
Talk to him.
Among the attendees was a small group of unfamiliar faces who stayed to themselves and made no attempt to socialize beyond their circle. Based on their behavior and formal appearances, they didn't seem to be from our industry. Our casual chatter was interrupted when we were asked to sign a confidentiality agreement preventing us from publicly discussing the information presented during the meeting. Needless to say, this intrigued, in some cases, disturbed many of us. The agreement was only a page long, but very clear on matters and consequences, which stated that violating the terms would result in job termination immediately. We asked several people what this meeting was about and the reason for such secrecy, but could not find anyone who had the answers for us. A few people refused to sign and walked out. Nobody stopped them. I was tempted to follow, but curiosity got the best of me.
That's right.
A man who was part of the unfamiliar group collected all the agreements from us. Quickly after this meeting began, one of the industry colleagues, who shall remain nameless like everybody else, thanked us for attending. He then gave the floor to a man who only introduced himself by first name and gave no other details about his personal background. I think he was the owner of the residence, but that was never confirmed. He briefly praised all of us for the success we had achieved in our industries and congratulated us for being selected as part of this small group of decision makers. At this point, I began to feel slightly uncomfortable in the strangeness of this gathering. The subject quickly changed as the speaker went on to tell us that the respective companies we represented had invested in a very profitable industry, which could become even more rewarding with our active involvement.
Damn.
He explained that the companies we worked for had invested millions into the building of privately owned prisons, and that our positions of influence in the music industry would actually impact the profitability of these investments. Then he says, I remember many of us in the group immediately looking at each other in awe and confusion. At the same time, I didn't know what a private prison was, but I wasn't the only one. Sure enough, someone asked what these prisons were and what any of this had to do with music. We were told that these prisons were built by privately owned companies who received funding from the government based on the number of inmates. The more inmates, the more the government would pay these prisons. It was also made clear to us that since these prisons are privately owned, as they become publicly traded, we'd be able to buy shares. Most of us were taken back by this. Again, a couple of people asked what this had to do with us. At this point, my industry colleague who had first opened the meeting took the floor again and answered our questions. He told us that since our employees had become silent investors in this prison business, it was now in their interest to make sure that these prisons remain filled. Our job would be to help make this happen by making music which promote criminal behavior, rap being the music of choice. He assured us that this would be a great situation for us because rap music was becoming an increasingly profitable market for our companies. And as employees, we'd also be able to buy stocks in these prisons. Immediately, silence came over the room. You could have heard a pin drop. I remember looking around to make sure I wasn't dreaming and saw half of the people with dropped jaws. My days was interrupted when someone shouted, "Is this a joke?" At this point, things became chaotic.
Right.
Two of the men who were part of the unfamiliar group grabbed the man who shouted and attempted to remove him from the house. A few of us, myself included, tried to intervene. One of them pulled out a gun, and we all backed off. They separated us from the crowd, and all four of us was escorted outside. My industry colleague who opened up the meeting earlier hurried out to meet us and reminded us that we had signed an agreement and would suffer the consequences of speaking out about this publicly, or even those who attended the meeting.
Damn.
I asked him, why was he involved with something so corrupt? And he replied, it's bigger than the music business and nothing we can do. No, it's bigger than the music business and nothing we want to challenge without risking consequences. We all protested as we walked back into the house. I remember word for word the last thing he said. It's out of my hands now. Just remember you signed an agreement. He then closed the door behind him. The men rushed us to our car and actually waited until we drove off the property.
Damn.
After reading all this, it actually made me feel a few different ways. The first emotion I felt was shocked, because I was definitely taken back by this, just knowing the level of evil that's involved by even thinking of a plan like this. You know what I'm saying? The second emotion I felt was anger. Anger because it's not enough for them to exploit our culture and make all the money off of it. Mm-hmm. Because let's keep it real, the industry has never been favorable towards the artists. Never. But they're going to go beyond the artists to get the artist to influence and lure in the consumer, which they knew at the time were mainly minorities.
Yep.
In other words, keep promoting gangster rap so that the youngsters will be influenced by them, which in turn will incite them to want to act like them. And it's a very good chance they'll end up in their prison.
Yeah.
So they're getting paid twice. They're getting paid from the artists they signing, and then they're getting paid from the people that these artists influence that goes to prison trying to be like these artists.
Yeah.
So they making a killing.
A killing.
They're using the music business to promote their private prison business. So us as the artists is the tool they use.
Yeah.
The music is the bait. Yep. And the young consumers are the prey. It's a cold game.
Cold game, bro.
Cold game. Then I feel sad. Sad because everything we seem to try to create, we always seem to give it away. We're always being tricked and deceived into believing that they have our best interests at hand when clearly they never have and they never will.
So I directed a bunch of rappers, people like Gucci Mane, Snoop Dogg, Lil Yachty, the list goes on and on and on, okay? I learned a lot of things, and I have left the industry largely over my political beliefs, but there is something I want to impart to people to hopefully, make some sort of change happen. So I have a challenge to rappers, and I know some of you still follow me. I know a bunch of the celebrity blogs still follow me from trying to get news from music videos and things like that. So here's the truth. The truth is this: a bunch of young black male rappers keep dying. You know who's not dying? Record executives. The record executives that push for them to continue to make songs and create a culture that is obsessed with death, drugs, and sex. Period. The industry is obsessed with it, but those record executives, they're not dying because they don't push this culture on their own people, but they're encouraging you to push it on yours, and they're paying you handsomely to do it. The reality is, I know a lot of you. A lot of you are good people. You're family guys. You're not the image that you put out there to the world. Why? Why don't you be the example? Stand up. I challenge you. Be the example. Make music about the culture you want to see. Don't just get online today and talk about how, whenever a rapper makes it, his own people take him down. Don't just make those videos. Don't be sad. Don't rest in peace. None of that stuff. Be the change you want to see. Inspire it in your community. Reach out to other rappers and say, we have to stop. We're being used. You've been used for a long time. They create this paradigm to make you believe that you're so important and your celebrity status is worth so much, but in truth, you're a pawn in their game and you always have been. The government has wanted to hold down communities of people in different ways through different methods for a very long time. Their method in the Black community has been to use entertainment to create a culture obsessed with death, drugs, sex, and money, so that they could create a false paradigm of what happiness and what success really was. And in doing so, they created a world that also made people more dependent on government, and as a result, gave themselves more power. The record executives that push you to do this, to go and continue to profit off the backs of your work, they're in cahoots with the elite. They're in cahoots with the government. They want you to think you're important, but in truth, you're just doing their dirty work for them, so stop. They've empowered you in ways that are real. You have an audience, you have platforms, you have the ability to make change. So go against the grain together. They're more afraid of you all together standing up and creating a new culture that's built around family, faith, freedom, doing the right thing, valuing life, than they are of anything else. So I challenge you, use your power to do the right things. If you continue to do the same thing you've done, more rappers like this are going to die. How many have to die before you change the culture? And let me tell you something else. There's a reason the record labels pay us more to do rap videos. They don't tell you that, do they? Do they tell you that they pay us more to do your videos? Because they do. They do it because they know it's more dangerous. They do it because they know it's more difficult, and they do it because, frankly, there's a lot of money laundering involved. Those labels wash a bunch of money through. We don't do it, but we know the labels are doing it 100%. Okay, they're then taking the money off the top end, and you see on your royalty check, oh, they spent $150,000 on this video. Did they? Because we didn't see $150,000. Okay, so where did the money go? And to who? Their friend's company? A lot of times that's the case. Same thing with insurance companies. They charge us more to insure your videos. And it's because they know the culture that's been created. They know that the only possibility of a music video being shot up is on a rap video. And that's the truth. So change the culture. You have the power.
Wow, that was a lot of information. I hope you took heed to it. I think it was a German Nazi who said, "Give me control over a nation's music, and I will control their youth." And this is what the first brother explained on how the music of the 60s and the 90s empowered Black youth. So much so that when they saw something going wrong, they acted in a response. They fought the power. They burned things down because they had racial pride and self-esteem. And I too am a victim and a product of the early 90s music, because I remember there were songs like Self-Destruction, We're All in the Same Game, Unity, I'm Everyday People, Fight the Power, songs that were uplifting in my early teen years. But right around 1992, where they're talking about that meeting, I saw a change with Dr. Dre and the Chronic and, Mobb Deep and Jay-Z and all of this gangster music, Ghetto Boys, everybody talking about gangsterism. And I went from wearing Malcolm X chains and, Brand Nubian and, the X-Clan and African medallions to wanting to be a thug. And so I can literally say that I and a lot of my peers were influenced by the music that was perpetrated to us. And it taught us everything to do: sell drugs, smoke weed, drink alcohol, what guns to buy, how to wait. Like, it taught us an entire lifestyle. And a lot of my peers, even today, are still involved in that lifestyle. And some of them are still in prison. So some of them just recently went to prison. Some of them are still coming out of prison. Some of them are on their way to prison at the age of 47, because we have been indoctrinated with that music. Like you said, music has such a terrific influence. As the brother said, well, you know, when those songs were out, people fought the power. When Sean Bell got shot 50 times, the best song on the radio was Like a Lollipop, and nobody did anything. And I've heard of that secret meeting before where the record companies, the record executives met with owners and investors of private prisons and said, look, if you want to invest in these prisons, we need you to keep the prisons full by promoting music that promotes criminal behavior. And in 1992, 1996, that's when we started living it, literally living it. We changed from, you know, party to guns and shooting each other. People who we grew up with from the boys club. And so even today, that is what we see. We wonder why. And, you know, I'm finna stop ignoring all the death and carnage in black communities where black people are shooting each other. We got to address that as well, because we are doing their dirty work. We are doing the work that makes it easy for them. And just like that last white man said, the record executives are not dying. All of these rappers are dying, and it has come out that some of these labels even have $1 million insurance policies on those rappers. So they promote beef between rappers. And I was thinking about this: how many country singers or you know, rock singers do you know who have beef against each other? You know, and so now that we know these things, like the brother said, what was saying, it's hard for somebody to turn down $1 million to promote that lifestyle when they're coming out of poverty, right? So you have people who know they're being used, but they're reaping the benefits, just them. But they're causing death and destruction. They're causing debauchery. You know, all of the female rappers talking about, you know, all of this debased things, influencing little girls. Okay, if I want to be successful, I got to be like this. I got to show my body. If I want to be successful, I got to go to jail. I got to carry guns. I got to join a gang. That's where we are at. And that is what we see. And I often wonder, like, how did we go from, you know, mother, there are too many of us dying. Mercy, mercy me. You know, how do we go through songs that uplift, I'm black and I'm proud, say it loud, and that's the 70s. But he also mentioned the black exploitation movies, which were brought into the black community to stop that pride. You know, that's after the 60s. You know, that is when the people were fighting, and people were fighting for blackness. After the 60s, we got a few gangs. Then they said, okay, well, how can we bring them back? Okay, let's give them Superfly. Let's give them the Mac. Let's give them pimps, hoes, and prostitutes, and drugs and gangsters. And that's when you saw all of those black exploitation movies that we thought were good because we were on the screen, but it opened and influenced us and our youth to live a life of crime. And then you go on with the 80s. The Reagan era, the crack era. Okay, we were already, that door was already open. Then you go to the 90s with the mass incarceration bill and this meeting and this conspiracy to promote death and destruction through music. And music is one of the most powerful things. They said even Satan in heaven was the minister of music. And you see a lot of demonic acts from these artists today, and they're actually, you know, living out, you know, satanic rituals and practices in their videos and their songs and in their performances. And people don't want to look at this as what it is, but, you know, the Kerner Commission, and there's been several other studies about this covert war on hip hop. I think Professor Grip wrote the book, the Psychological Covert War on Hip Hop, that destroyed it as an uplifting instrument to a detrimental instrument. And there's much more I can say about this, but I think the brothers already said it already. And those were rappers: Wise Intelligent, Ice Cube, Crazy Bone, and that music executive. They are insiders who know how these things operate. So I hope you guys take this to take heed to this and really realize, the depths of the conspiracy that has been propagated towards us to make us see some of the things that we have done. Even once again, I will be the first to admit I was influenced by gangster rap. I listened to songs, then I went out and did them. Many people might don't want to admit it. Many people don't want to, deny it, whether it was subconsciously or consciously. I did some things consciously, and I probably did some things subconsciously because of what I was hearing, being pushed to do certain things. But hopefully this will open up somebody's eyes. Share this video so we can all see what we're up against. And y'all let me know what y'all think about this subject in the comments. And if you have not subscribed to this channel, please do so. It doesn't cost you anything, but allows this channel to grow and be more prevalent in the internet space. But I thank you for watching, liking, sharing, and subscribing to the channel. And as always, I pray you have peace and blessings. Scripture says all things that are hidden shall be revealed, and those things done in secret shall be exposed on the mountaintop.
Let's go, Rich. Let's go. You watching Telehouse Publishing, breaking news coverage. Give you the truth before fake news, throw mud in it. Before the jury decide and the judge discover it. You should tune in to Telehouse Publishing. Telehouse Publishing, breaking news coverage. The propaganda grammar, don't believe none of it. Before the jury decide and the judge discover it. You should tune in to Telehouse Publishing. Who keep the people informed with stories abroad from literary work where the narrative's wrong. The research is always on point, the commentary is hard. It's Rich Teller raising the bar. Follow along, shout out to FBA, still FTP, big up in FAC, and all my black families. There's three sides to all stories, which one you gon' believe? We run down on the false prophets when they come to deceive. 100% urban world news, current events. We don't like them lies. Media is biased, cause we got God beside us. Ladies and just as power. If you don't know by now, look around me, the darkest hours. Cops squeeze the hammers, they don't understand us. We stop and freeze with our hands to kill us off like cancer. Don't speculate before the facts on the case. Telehouse set them straight, my brother Rich investigates. You watching Telehouse Publishing, breaking news coverage. Give you the truth before fake news, don't mud in it. Before the jury decide and the judge discover it. You should tune in to Telehouse Publishing. Telehouse Publishing, breaking news coverage. The propaganda grammar, don't believe none of it. Before the jury decide and the judge discover it. You should tune in to Telehouse Publishing.
Negroes have listened to the trickery and the lies and the false promises of the white man now.